President-elect Joe Biden has announced what he calls the Biden plan to rebuild U.S. supply chains. Its components indicate he's likely to shift priorities from the Trump administration in information technology. Gordon Bitko is Senior Vice President of Policy at the Information Technology Industry Council. He's former Chief Information Officer of the FBI. Gordon, welcome back. It's nice to see you. One of the areas that you and your colleagues at ITI are previewing is supply chain. What are the moves that you expect to see supply chain-wise in the new administration?
Francis, first, thanks for having me back. It's always great to be on the show to talk with your viewers. The Biden Build Back Better plan definitely talks about the importance of Buy America, of investing in American innovation, of encouraging American companies, and of reshoring supply chain. It highlights the challenges from the pandemic. That's absolutely 100% correct. What we'd really like to see the Biden administration be doing is focusing on competitiveness of American companies as the way to get to that. In other words, policies that really invest in those technologies that are critical for the U.S. to continue to be a world leader and to drive towards giving those companies advantages in what is still a global marketplace.
You make an interesting distinction in this work, and you write, seeking broad-based resilience rather than pure self-sufficiency, writing about President-elect Biden's plan. That strikes me as profound because it doesn't indicate that we need to have everything within our borders, just within the borders of countries maybe that are friendly to us. Am I reading that right?
Absolutely, Francis. Well, I think that we all learned some hard lessons during the pandemic about the importance of resiliency, but that doesn't mean that the best answer is everything has to be reshored and brought back here. That's really going to be incredibly expensive and time-consuming and inefficient. At the same time, the global supply chain is interconnected. We have allied countries, friendly countries, places where a lot of key technology is built, assembled, manufactured today, and we should be working with them and encouraging American companies to work with them as well. I think that that's a really successful path forward. The alternative of what's been done in a lot of the piecemeal policies of the past are these very rigid approaches, banning particular countries, banning particular products. The risk is high with those. There's no doubt we need to take corrective action, but those really rigid policies make it very difficult for industry and government to work together to really ensure American companies can be as competitive as they need to be. You
have a section in this preview, Gordon, about IT modernization, and I think the trajectory that the government's been on for a long time, decade or more, on IT modernization is important to focus on. Do you see a refocus, an acceleration, a change in priorities? What do you see moving forward regarding IT modernization in particular, Gordon?
I think there's a couple of main points I want to draw on. One is the modernization that did happen really was essential for the government to be able to function at the level that it has during the pandemic. The fact that so many agencies were able to keep going at the level they were was due to investments that they've made in modernization. At the same time, we also saw lots of challenges. You and I have talked about those, and lots of other people have as well in the past. The failures of state unemployment insurance systems are unfortunately a really good example. So I think that what we were looking for is, as the Biden administration is talking about more services being delivered by government, that there has to be a renewed emphasis on doing those things through IT modernization. It's also a great way to think about improving the security of those legacy systems and to be thinking about what are the highest risk products and services, and how should we think about supply chain risk in those products as well.
The issue, though, as always, is paying for them, Gordon, and you're right, it seems likely the window for considerable investment in federal government IT systems is opening. That may be true of the Biden-Harris administration. Is it necessarily true of Congress, given that the composition of Congress didn't change dramatically that much on Election Day?
I think, Francis, there is a consensus in Congress about the importance of government functioning effectively. And a lot of these legacy systems that are still out there, people realize that they don't. And unfortunately, who suffers when that happens is American citizens. It's consumers of those services who can't get what they need. So I think there are going to be opportunities to invest smartly and appropriately. It's not as though we anticipate that there's going to be an open spigot and no accountability, and nobody wants that. But we do think that there are really clear needs and opportunities to make some smart, targeted investments.
There's a potential impact here on industry, Gordon, and you and your colleagues, right? The president-elect would likely restore the Fair Pay and Safe Workplace executive order that the Obama-Biden administration instituted. President Trump rescinded that executive order. And a lot of people expect that a lot of executive orders that President Trump rescinded will come back in the early stages of the Biden administration. What's the potential impact on the industry that serves government if that executive order comes back?
Well, I think that those things, they will be impactful, but actually the one that I think is going to be most impactful is actually a Trump executive order, the 13950 on racial discrimination, and that we're actually hoping that the Biden administration will rescind that, because that has definitely had a chilling effect on many companies who have workforce diversity as a really important priority for themselves. And if they're doing business with the government, they're right now under this cloud of not being able to continue that training, unfortunately, and that is, as I said, having a chilling impact.
About 30 seconds left, Gordon. It also strikes me that it's not just the chilling impact, it's the uncertainty of what it really means, because the administration hasn't made that clear to vendors, has it?
It has not, and unfortunately, the executive order is scheduled to go into effect for government contractors this weekend. If you look at the 60-day timeline from when it was signed, there's still a lot of uncertainty. The Department of Labor has provided some guidance, but it's not clear exactly what that's going to mean still. And so we are, like I said, hoping that the Biden administration, who has made a priority of addressing systemic racism, will take this on and rescind it relatively quickly.
Gordon Bitko, thank you very much. Great to have you on as always.
Thanks again, Francis.